It all comes down to this, Steelers fans. The Pittsburgh Steelers will travel to Baltimore, Maryland here on Saturday afternoon to take on the 13-3 number one seed in the AFC Conference, the Baltimore Ravens, with the season and the playoffs on the line. Welcome into Steelers Talk. I am your host, Jack Sperry, and today we're going to be previewing this Week 18 matchup between the Steelers and Ravens. Before I get to my keys to victory, score prediction, Lamar Jackson scouting report, the whole 9 yards, do me a favor real quick right at the top of the show here. Click that subscribe button and help us win the final sub-battle of the 2023 NFL season. We're going up against our sister company here at Chat Sports, Ravens Rundown. And last week we beat Tyler Jones. He's the Seahawks and Ravens host here at Chat Sports. We beat his Seahawks channel. Now it's time to beat the Ravens channel. But Teacher has another message here for Steelers fans this week.
We meet again, Steelers fans, and I hear you guys desperately need us to sit our starters this week. And you know what? Even if we do that, we're still going to kick your ass. And we're going to do that in the sub battle, on the football field, the super chat battle, everything in between. So, Steelers, I desperately want to beat you. Want to make sure you don't make the postseason and that you go cry like Big Ben does on the sideline still. We all know that picture in our head. So, Steelers fans, we're going to beat you. Deal with it. And I can't wait to kick your ass one more time before the end of the season.
What can I say, man? Teacher, he's just the type of guy that's a glutton for punishment, man. He likes pain, and he wants another Steelers loss this week here. So let's provide him. Let's oblige him and beat the crap out of the Ravens rundown in this final sub-battle. We have never lost a sub-battle in the history of Steelers Talk, and we cannot lose our first one to Ravens rundown. So do me a favor. If you're new here, we're counting on you guys. Make sure you click that subscribe button to kick off today's show. Now, before we get into this preview here where we go over the season trends and everything, let's talk a little bit about the Pittsburgh Steelers playoff path here in Week 18, the season finale. So, essentially, there's two ways that the Steelers can get into the 2023 NFL postseason here. If they win, they need either the Miami Dolphins to beat the Buffalo Bills on Sunday Night Football or the Tennessee Titans to upset the Jacksonville Jaguars on Sunday. But they could still make the playoffs if they lose on Saturday. If they lose against Baltimore on Saturday evening, that means that they will need both Tennessee to beat the Jaguars and the Denver Broncos to beat the Las Vegas Raiders. Both those things happen. The Steelers will make the playoffs even if they lose on Saturday. Right now, the New York Times projects that the Steelers have just a 28% chance to make the playoffs, but keep in mind they're accounting for the Ravens playing their starters this week, which I'm not exactly sure is going to happen. So I think those odds are actually a little bit higher at this point in the week. All right, now let's go into the big story of the week, of course, which is that Mason Rudolph has usurped Kenny Pickett as the QB1 here for the Pittsburgh Steelers. It seems like Rudolph is going to be the starting quarterback for the Steelers here for the rest of the 2023-2024 season. If they make the playoffs, it seems like he's going to be the guy under center. And listen, I think that this is the right call. I think when you look at the numbers here, I know it's a smaller sample size for Mason Rudolph, just 2 weeks against bad defenses. That's all granted. But right now, I just think that he is a much better quarterback, or at least he's performed much better than Kenny Pickett throughout the season. Right now, the completion percentage is higher. He's throwing for over 100 more yards per game. Of course, the touchdowns, interception stuff, it's kind of skewed because Kenny's played way more football. But then the quarterback rating right now, Mason Rudolph, I know it's a small sample size, but he has the highest quarterback rating in the entire National Football League with among passers with at least 50 pass attempts this year. He has been absolutely fantastic to this point in the season, just 2 weeks starting, and this is absolutely the right call, and I think that he's the best guy for the job here for the Pittsburgh Steelers heading into this do-or-die matchup. Now, let me know down there in the comments section, between Mason Rudolph and Kenny Pickett, which guy is more likely to be the Pittsburgh Steelers starting quarterback in 2024? Type MR if you think Mason Rudolph, or type KP if you still believe in Kenny Pickett. This is going to be the pinned comment on today's show, so YouTube's going to throw you an ad break here in just a couple of seconds. When that happens, take advantage of that time by answering today's pinned question. All right, now let's get into this week's preview where, of course, the black and gold will be traveling to M&T Bank Stadium in Baltimore, Maryland on Saturday, 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time is the kickoff. And the big question going into this week, guys, is going to be whether or not the Baltimore Ravens decide to play their starters, and if so, for how long. They could decide to sit them like they did a couple years back, and they ended up losing in the divisional round to the Tennessee Titans. They could play their starters and risk them getting injured before getting into the playoffs, or they could do what the Green Bay Packers did a couple years back with Aaron Rodgers, where they played their starters for a half to keep them fresh and then took them out in the second half. John Harbaugh, as of right now, their head coach has not said what they're planning on doing. They're still discussing it. I'm sure if you're watching this later in the week, an answer to this question will already have been answered. But as of right now, by the time I'm filming this, we do not know what the Baltimore Ravens are going to do. My best guess is that they're going to sit their starters. That's what they've done before. I think Lamar Jackson, if they sit him this week, pretty much has the most valuable player award locked up. They don't want to put that in jeopardy, and they don't want to get any more injuries here on this roster because they want to make a Super Bowl push here as the number one seed in the conference this year. However, I do think that the Pittsburgh Steelers, and Mike Tomlin said this in his pregame press conference this week on Monday, the Steelers need to be ready for whatever the Ravens bring to the field on Saturday afternoon. They have to be ready to go up against an MVP Lamar Jackson. They have to be ready to go up against one of the best rushing teams in the National Football League. They're going to have to be ready to go up against arguably the best defense in the National Football League, because the Ravens, they don't like the Steelers, and they would love nothing more than to see the Steelers out of the playoffs this year. So this is their profile. Of course, we know these guys well. John Harbaugh's their head coach. They have a 13-3 record. Todd Monken's done a great job as the offensive coordinator there. Lots of spread concepts, likes to get Lamar on the move, really uses his playmaking instincts very well. And then Mike MacDonald, their defensive coordinator, one of the hottest names on the head coaching search right now in the National Football League, and for good reason. Shifts things around, does a lot of creative things in that aggressive 3-4 system. Lots of press, lots of shifting coverages, and lots of blitzes. That's what the Baltimore Ravens are known for, and they're damn good at it. All right, let's look at the trends here, starting with the Ravens offense. And if the Steelers see the Ravens starters, let's just face it, man. In terms of statistics, this is probably the best team in the National Football League right now. They're second in points per game right now, and they're top 10 in every single major offensive category. Absolutely incredible. However, the Steelers defense has done a really, really good job this season of holding teams to under 20 points. They're giving up less than 20 points per game right now. I mean, that Ravens number, almost 30 points per game offensively, but especially if they sit their starters this week, I think the Steelers will have a really, really good chance of keeping Baltimore under 20 points this week. Then you get to the defensive side of the ball, and this is even better than the offensive stats, if you ask me. I think the strength of this Ravens team is actually their defense more than their offense. They're definitely the most balanced team in the league right now, but they're first in the NFL in takeaways, and they're first in points per game given up. This is a very, very difficult defense. And let's just face it, man, the Steelers, in terms of just the trends this season, have been one of the worst offenses in the National Football League. Now, it's gotten better with Mason Rudolph under center. 2 straight 30-plus point performances. 2 straight over 400-plus yard performances. So this offense is starting to turn a new leaf. And if the Ravens don't play their starters, I would expect another good week from Mason Rudolph and this offense. And you can kind of take these offensive season trends for the Steelers with a grain of salt. But if you believe the trends to this point in the season, they would predict a 24-17 Ravens win at home. I'm going to let you guys know my Week 18 score prediction here coming up here later in today's show, so make sure you guys stick around for that. Also, in about 2 minutes here, I'm going to have my keys to victory. I got 5 of them for the Steelers to beat the Ravens this week, even if they decide to play their starters. And then I've got a Lamar Jackson scouting report for you guys coming up in about 5 minutes. But first, I want to tell you about our sponsor here at Steelers Talk, which is Factor Meals. Get started on your New Year's resolutions with today's sponsor, Factor Meals. Factor's ready-to-eat meal delivery service takes the stress out of meal planning and sets you up for success in the new year. Skip the grocery stores and the prep work and the cooking fatigue. Instead, get chef-crafted, dietitian-approved meals delivered straight to your door with over 25 meals to choose from per week, including options like keto, calorie smart, vegan and veggie, and more, plus over 55 weekly add-ons. You'll have a ton of nutritious and flavorful options to kickstart your New Year's resolutions. What's even better is that Factor now offers loads of snack options like breakfast, smoothies, juices, snacks, and more to keep you going no matter what's on your schedule. They actually sent me and Coop some really awesome stuff, some meals along with some juices and smoothies. Absolutely delicious. You guys are going to love them. Stress less over meal times with Factor's no prep, no mess meals to free up time otherwise spent shopping, cooking, and cleanup. Head on over to factormeals.com/SteelersChat50 and use code SteelersChat50, one word, to get 50% off Factor Meals today. That's code SteelersChat50, one word, at factormeals.com/SteelersChat50 to get 50% off Factor Meals today. All right, so let's get into the keys to victory here in the season finale, and it all starts with Lamar Jackson. Now, keep in mind, all of these keys to victory are if the Ravens play their starters this week. So let's start with the scouting report here on the likely most valuable player here in the National Football League, and that is Lamar Jackson himself. He's closing in on that second MVP trophy in his career. And listen, man, he's an elite NFL quarterback that doesn't have a lot of glaring weaknesses on film. Now, he can be a little bit inconsistent at times with his accuracy and decision-making, but overall, it's a really good product that he puts on the field. He's a plus runner. I wouldn't necessarily he's on the level of like a Justin Fields where he's going to rip off 60-yard gains for touchdowns, but he's definitely somebody that you have to keep your eye on in coverage. Most teams have to play zone coverage against Lamar Jackson because you just have to have eyes on the quarterback at all time. But something that's definitely misinterpreted here with Lamar Jackson is that he's actually a really good pocket passer, guys. And I know that goes against the narrative because he's a running quarterback, but the mental processing is really nice. Playmaking outside the pocket is awesome. The pocket presence, his ability to feel a pressure on the sides and up the middle is incredible, and his ability to escape that pressure is second to none. And then the accuracy is actually pretty darn good as well. However, he stinks against the Pittsburgh Steelers, all right? You look at these numbers in 4 career starts for Lamar Jackson against the black and gold. The Steelers are straight up his kryptonite, man. 59.1% completion percentage, just over 200 yards per start, just 4 touchdowns to 6 interceptions, including one that he had in Week 5. Didn't have a touchdown in their earlier matchup this year. And for a quarterback rating of just 66.8, to put that into perspective, that would be 70th among NFL passers this year in this league. That's terrible. All right, Lamar Jackson is not a good quarterback against the Pittsburgh Steelers, or at least he hasn't been to this point in his career. And in Week 5, man, just 22 of 38, 236 yards and an interception, right? So it wasn't like he was lighting up this defense. Now, again, like, this defense for Pittsburgh, it's banged up, right? They have different inside linebackers than they did in Week 5. They have different safeties. They even have a little bit of a different cornerback rotation. So I really do think for the Pittsburgh Steelers, to make him uncomfortable, you're going to have to get pressure on him, all right? And you're really going to need Defensive Player of the Year candidate TJ Watt, Alex Highsmith, Cam Hayward. The pass rush needs to show up here, guys, if the Steelers are going to win this football game. Plain and simply, and they have to probably have their best game of the season. Lamar Jackson, like I said before, has excellent pocket presence, so it's going to be tough to get to him. But if they can do that and they can force him into mistakes and have another bad football game against the black and gold on offense, I really do think the Steelers are going to have a shot to win this game, whether they play Lamar or if they sit him. All right, number 2 on this week's keys to victory list is somebody's got to guard Zay Flowers, man. Because this guy, I was telling you guys this during the draft process last year. This kid is going to be special. And when he was drafted by the Baltimore Ravens in the first round last year, or this year, I don't even know what you call it at this point, I mean, I was lamenting that fact because I know how good this football player is. I know he's a little bit small at 5'9" and a quarter inches tall and 182 pounds. But this guy is one of the best route runners in football already. He's electric with the ball in his hands in open space, and he's got pretty darn good body control and hands as well to come down with contested catches. This guy is a really, really good football player, and honestly, I'm not too sure how well the Steelers match up with him. You're going to see Levi Wallace on him. You're going to see guys like Chandon Sullivan on him. I'm not exactly too keen on that matchup right there for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I would expect Joey Porter Jr. to be more on Odell Beckham Jr. this weekend, so Zay Flowers could absolutely be a problem for the Pittsburgh Steelers on defense. All right, now another big thing for the Steelers this week is that they need to win the turnover battle. Now, this has been a big point of contention for the Steelers this year because their formula for winning is dominate on defense, protect the football on offense, make the big play in the fourth quarter. So this has been a big one for the Steelers all season long. And they actually won the turnover battle against the Ravens in Week 5. They forced 3 turnovers on Baltimore in Week 5, which is the most that they've given up all season. And the Steelers did give up a fumble in that football game. But I think that if the Steelers can once again maybe get a +2 differential in this football game in terms of the turnovers, I think it's going to be very tough for the Ravens to come out on top. Now, you look at the turnover differential rankings here in the National Football League. These two offenses protect the football better than any other teams in the National Football League. Baltimore, of course, leads the league in turnovers. So they're number 1 right now with a +12 turnover differential. That's why they're one of the best teams, if not the best team overall in the league right now. But Pittsburgh is right behind them in that number 2 spot at +11. They are tops in the National Football League, so this will be a very interesting matchup if Baltimore does, in fact, decide to play their starters. And listen, man, give Mason Rudolph credit. I mean, he has put Mitchell Trubisky's aggressiveness and Kenny Pickett's ability to protect the football together to really create the best possible version of a quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers this year. He's targeting down the field. He's sticking in the pocket. He is doing the things that Kenny Pickett was not doing earlier this year, and he's still doing what Kenny Pickett did best this year, which was protect the football. So no interceptions in the first 2 weeks is a very encouraging stat, and I think I'm pretty darn confident that Mason is not going to throw an interception this week against the Baltimore Ravens. But let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section. Will Mason Rudolph throw an interception this week against Baltimore? Type yes or type no. Let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section. Another thing the Steelers, I think, need to do from an offensive perspective here is that they need to shorten this football game by prioritizing the run with Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren. They did this perfectly last week against the Seattle Seahawks. Probably the best rushing performance for this offense all season long, over 120 yards rushing for Najee. Jaylen had a really nice game as well. Both of them ended up with touchdowns. I think they're going to have a similar kind of game in this one, kind of methodically move the ball down the field, keep the clock running, and kind of shorten the game and keep things kind of tight when we get into the fourth quarter. I have all the confidence in the world right now in the Steelers running game after last week's performance. Hopefully they can keep it up here in the season finale. Then the final key to victory here, and this has been a key to victory on a lot of games this year and a lot of preview videos this year, is you got to make the big play in the fourth quarter. And to their credit, the Steelers have done a really good job at doing this year. When they're in close games, they have a tendency here to make a big play in the fourth quarter that leads to a victory. But now the season is on the line, and especially if Baltimore plays their starters, it's going to be very, very tough. Now, I think whether or not the Steelers or the Ravens play their starters, I do think this game is going to be close. It is desperation time here in Pittsburgh. They're playing their best football of the season. It is an AFC North matchup where we know things get physical. We know these teams know each other extremely well. I think it's going to come down to a play in the fourth quarter. Who's going to make that big play? Is it a strip sack from T.J. Watt? Is it a big touchdown pass from Mason Rudolph to George Pickens? I don't know what it's going to be, but I know a big play is going to be there to be made, and the Steelers need to make it if they want to make the postseason here in 2023. So now I have 2 different Week 18 score predictions, all right? So I got one where if the starters for the Baltimore Ravens rest, and then I have one for if Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens starters play in this football game. So let's start with if the Steelers play a Baltimore Ravens team where the starters are resting. I think it's going to be a comfortable win on the road. Another 30-point win for Mason Rudolph in the Steelers offense. I'm going to say 30-16 Pittsburgh Steelers win in that instance. All right, but now, if Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens starters play, I still think the Steelers win this football game, guys. I just think that with everything going on right now, the Steelers are feeling really, really good. The Ravens don't really have anything to play for. I think the Steelers come away with the victory regardless. It will be closer if the starters for the Ravens play. I'll go 24-20 if Lamar Jackson and Baltimore sits their starters. Now, it's your turn. Let me know down there in the comments section. Steelers versus Ravens. Give me your score predictions down there in the comments section, and let me know who you think is going to win this week's matchup here in Week 18. Now, before I go, I do have one last thing that I want to talk about here, and I want to give a special shout out to one of the real ones here at Steelers Talk. His name is Hot Rod 24. He shows up for every single live show that we have, every single watch party. He saved up his money to join Gold Club this year. He's a real one, guys. And right now, his grandpa is in the hospital. He is getting surgery tomorrow to get a pacemaker put in his heart. And we want to send our thoughts and prayers to Hot Rod 24 because we are a family here at Steelers Talk. Hot Rod's been a part of our family for a long time. So if you want to show some love and send your thoughts and prayers to Hot Rod 24 and his family and his grandpa here, go ahead, spam those heart emojis for me down there in the comments section. Let's show Hot Rod some love here. He's been a real one for a very long time, and we're a family here at Steelers Talk, and we want to show some love. All right, that'll be it for today's show, guys. Thank you so much for all of your support. Make sure you click that subscribe button right now to join our family. We're getting so close to 50,000 subscribers. That's our goal by the NFL Draft next spring. So help us get there right now by clicking that subscribe button right now.